For 2 long years, I handcrafted soap and skincare products in a windowless basement of a dilapidated nursing care building. It was my company's manufacturing site. Some days in the winter, I would arrive before the sun came up and didn't leave until the evening. I literally didn't see the sun. But it was a means to an end. For 2 long years, every day, twice a day, I wrote my major definite goal, which was me running a successful soap company from a retail storefront, as well as wholesaling to major market chains nationwide. And after 2 long years and an incredible amount of work, we opened the doors to our 1,800 square foot retail storefront. At about this time, we were also accepted into the numerous major health food chain outlets, such as Whole Foods Market, Lucky's, Sprouts, and Vitamin Cottage. I felt like I had climbed Everest. We had been working so hard for years to get to this point. Our sales were burgeoning. The meaningful recognition that I had wanted our business to earn through our efforts was beginning to show. We were directly competing with the biggest brands in the natural artisan soap and skincare industry across the country, and I was having the time of my life. Until I really started looking at the numbers. Even though our total sales drastically jumped over the years, we couldn't put a whole lot more into our own pockets. Because of all the expenses we were taking on as a larger business, my owner draw stayed the same as it was back when I was grunting away in the deep, dark basement. How could this be? After looking at the numbers, I realized that we weren't selling our products at the correct prices. I forced my own personal buying habits into the foundation of what we could sell our products for. If I personally wouldn't buy a soap for X dollars per bar, I wasn't going to charge that to my customer. That was my mentality. This is faulty thinking, and it could have been the detriment to our entire business. And for most startups in our industry, this is the single biggest detriment to their business. You are not your customer. Let me repeat that. You are not your customer. You must charge what your business can afford, not what your own financial thermostat says. For years, I had been following a formula to price my products. I found it on a blog somewhere. I'm sure you've seen it. It suggests that your total production cost times 2 is your wholesale price, times 2 is your retail price. It seemed legit, it made sense to me, and it was easy to follow. I had been utilizing the manufacturing software SoapMaker for years, so I understood my production costs for everything we produced. So all I had to do was some simple math according to this formula. But it still wasn't adding up. My total sales barely exceeded my total expenses. In our first full year of business in our store, we essentially broke even. Now, I didn't get into business to break even, and I especially didn't get into business to operate at a net loss. This ended up being my single biggest lesson learned in business. It doesn't matter how much money my business generated in total sales if my expenses matched or exceeded my total sales. Something had to change. I threw that equation out and started over. I realized that I couldn't possibly price my products based on an equation that doesn't consider all other operating expenses of a business, including owner draws and salaries. To price my products correctly, I had to account for all expenses. I had to make a budget. How in the world could I have operated my business without a budget? No wonder we barely broke even. My head was in the sand. I was so focused on making and selling our products that I didn't stop to consider the true cost of making and selling our products. It took time. In fact, it was downright painstaking. Having to account for all operating expenses of a business and then size up the price points to see if they at least cover the expenses is not an easy task. This is the dark, looming side of our startup phase as an industry that few have a firm grasp on. Alas, because of the failed attempts, or even no attempts, at accurately setting up a budget with a revenue goal and subsequent plan of action, most startups in our industry don't get past what I call the kitchen phase of business. Once I created a sound budget that accounted for all expenses, I made clear sales goals. As you will read in this book, I then set up pricing scenarios for each product I was to produce and sell for the upcoming year. I could literally see on paper what prices would work and what wouldn't. I changed all my prices to accommodate my new budget. I saw the real cost of making and selling my products for the first time. Now we were ready to go. The The subsequent years of business proved fruitful. We generated more and more in total sales, but most importantly, we had an ever-growing positive net margin. It wasn't easy, but we did it. My company went through years of only operating at a break-even point. There were even a few years that we operated at a net loss. I don't want this for you. This book shores up how to price your products, but most importantly, how to create a sound budget. Taking the examples and steps from this book, you can allocate a sound budget according to your own special needs in your own unique business. Furthermore, you might unearth some concepts that you haven't been privy to thus far, such as branding and marketing, and what it really means to target your demographic. I love this industry. I love my fellow soap makers. I wrote this for you. I want you to get the most out of this book as you possibly can. I'm so proud of how it came out, not for my own self-recognition, but for your success. As a life and business coach, I see the same pervasive problem with most of my clients. They don't know the true cost of how to run a business, and I didn't either. I forced myself to learn, and from that we created a very successful company. You can skip and bypass all the hardships that I went through by simply reading this book, following the steps, and implementing a plan in accordance to your own unique business. You can pick up our book at loveandsoap.com, or you can jump on Amazon and get it there. We also offer an ebook of the same content on loveandsoap.com. Thank you so much.